Hello everybody and welcome to this video with myself and Mr. Alistair Penman, and we are here to talk about a very affordable and still very good quality mouthpiece for soprano sax, because we know sometimes we're here talking about expensive gear, expensive instruments and expensive mouthpieces, but there is another range of mouthpieces available which are more of a budget price potentially, but still can be good quality if you get the right ones. And we've got with us the Yamaha, in particular the 4C. Now Yamaha produce a range from 3C up to 7C, and that's the tip opening size. The bigger the number, the wider the tip. And we can talk maybe about what differences those make after the demonstration. But for us, the 4C is a really good option for someone wanting a budget but high quality still mouthpiece. So I said to Alistair, you're my man, you're going to help me with this, and we've got him here with his soprano and we're going to have a little listen to it, and then I'd be really interested, Alistair, in your thoughts as someone who normally uses Selma Concept, which is a hard rubber, quite expensive professional mouthpiece, what you think of this Yamaha. So let's have a little listen and we'll get into it. Well, sounds good to me, but the criticism could be always, I know sometimes when we have advanced players on and you put something in front of them, they're always going to sound pretty good. But the question to the player, I suppose, would be, how hard are you having to work to sound like you, if that makes sense?
Not very hard at all, surprisingly, which is quite nice. Yeah, I'm actually very impressed with this. I mean, if you compare the cost of, say, this Yamaha student mouthpiece with what you might be paying through a professional kind of Selma Van Doren type thing, there's not as much difference as you might think. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but it's very easy to play. And one of the things with these student mouthpieces I find is they're designed to be easy to play. So if you are a student, you're not so advanced, you may actually find these are easier to play than the professional models anyway. And of course, the professional models, you do get a richer sound, you do get more depth of sound. But this is great to play. It speaks really immediately. It's really clear across the whole range. There aren't really any intonation problems to speak of. It's crisp with the articulation. I would say this tip opening as well, I think this is a 4C on here, feels actually very similar to the tip opening of my Concept, which again is probably why it feels fairly comfortable for me to play on. What you find with mouthpieces is actually the thing I find makes the biggest difference is actually the overall resistance. So for example, if you're playing on a wide mouthpiece, you need a softer reed. If you've got a kind of close tip opening, you might need a harder reed. So it's kind of, if you find a setup that works for you, then this will work very nicely if you've got the right reed on it. Yeah, and as Alistair mentioned, there's a few different variations in the size, and as I alluded to earlier, the numbering system, so 3C, 4C, 5C, 6C, 7C, denotes the gap between the reed and the table and the tip of the mouthpiece. So the larger the number, such as 7C, then there's quite a large gap between the reed and the tip of the mouthpiece, and what that means is commonly you might need a slightly softer reed, slightly stronger embouchure, and commonly the sound will become more spread and sort of barky, if you will. And on the smaller numbers, the sound tends to be a bit more centered and a bit more controllable. I think that's generally the vibe. But you can then get away with a slightly harder reed because there's very little of the reed having to, or it's not having to travel as far to vibrate, essentially, is what we're saying. So I think, in summary, for me listening, you still sound like you, and I know that, as we said, professional players can do that, but they sometimes feel less comfortable depending on the gear they're being asked to do it on. Yeah. An interesting anecdote, when I was first bought a soprano sax, switched to soprano, I remember playing in a masterclass with a very well-known saxophonist, and I played something to him, and at the end he said, I can't really tell how good you are because you've got a rubbish mouthpiece. And he said, come back and play it to me on a decent mouthpiece and then we'll know how good you are. And it is a thing. I mean, at the time I'd done the classic thing. I just bought a soprano and was playing whatever mouthpiece came with it, essentially, which was, it might even have been an unbranded thing or something. But it's amazing when you are starting out, just having a good mouthpiece. Kind of, if you get a Yamaha, you can't really go wrong with it. You've got a good starting point. You know where you're at, so you can put in your hours practice and know you're making progress and you're not fighting against anything. You're kind of going in the right direction.
I think, and like you're touching on there, there's consistency with the Yamahas. The quality of the manufacturing is really, really good. So from the point of view of a person assisting and helping somebody choose, or a teacher or a player recommending to someone, you just know if you say get a Yamaha 4C, you know what your student's going to come back with. I know something I'm selling is going to be of a good quality, and basically for 99.9% of people, they're going to get on with that mouthpiece.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the reference point for those, you know, that cheaper end is still £50 English roughly, but it's still the reference point for us on quality on that. Cool. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there today. For any of you out there wanting to buy a Yamaha mouthpiece, or indeed any other item for your saxophone, do check out dorks.co.uk and stay subscribed, or get subscribed if you're not already, to this YouTube channel, so that you can keep your eye on all the upcoming videos of myself and Alistair and all the other guests that we have come through here talking about gear. But for us today, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.